What's going on, fish? Welcome back to your favorite pond, the Coy Pond, episode 77, post-draft. Woo! We made it. Draft is over with. All the quarterbacks were finally taken. We'll get into that at some point.
Just about the entire Buckeye team was taken?
Yes, almost all Ohio State players are off the board, finally. Only took 2 rounds.
They don't know what they're going to do next year.
Yeah, I mean, they'll just buy their next team.
Play a bunch of freshmen?
Yeah, exactly. They'll all be paid $2 million each, but that's something else completely. As always, you can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, and as always, never forget to leave your question on SpeakPipe in the off-season as we approach these, what could be a variety of different podcast episodes you see from us over the next 3 months. And don't forget, get yourself some amazing merch. It's at links in the description below. And yeah, so we're looking, this is the week after the draft. Draft was a week ago, however you want to say it. How did you feel?
Well, you know how I felt that night.
Yeah, we felt pretty good. We felt pretty good.
We felt great. There's no doubt about that.
Man, that is our Super Bowl. Because you can't always have your team in the Super Bowl.
No, and it lived up to its annual hype. Just the enjoyment of the evening.
Oh, yeah.
Hanging out with C-Squared here.
Oh, yeah, the posse,
And the whole thing. It's amazing how many people know that the tradition is to watch the draft on that Thursday night, and
there's a trail.
What we do, and
yes,
so
we have a routine and we follow it, and it's a blast. It really is.
Yes,
it's always funny when people are like, "You're taking the draft off." It's like, yeah, motherfucker. I can't describe it to any normal person because I don't blame anybody else for not necessarily getting it.
Yeah,
but that is like my one day in April. That's like, yeah, no, I need something to look forward to. Yep. And that's beautifully at the end. Second to last full week of April, I need a day off, damn it.
And it's really kind of like, you've gone that full stretch from like the Christmas, New Year's holiday.
Right.
You're not quite to Memorial Day.
Nope.
Or your summer, whatever you got going on.
Kind of in between. Yeah. You don't have a day off officially in April, so you need something. And
you've been without football for several months by then, so
yes.
it really is something to look forward to, and it never ever disappoints.
No, it does not.
So in terms of the mock results themselves, for me, it was not great, but mock drafts are so hard to nail down, and I even looked up like Daniel Jeremiah, like how many picks did he get right? It when you search it says, this is a difficult question to answer because how do you
how do you score it?
How do you score it, right? And that's what everybody struggles with. So, and everybody usually does multiple versions of what they're doing. So, last year I think I got 7 right, 7 or 8 right. This year I got 6 right. But again, what's right? Josh Simmons going to Kansas City was correct, but it wasn't picked at 31. It was picked at 32.
Right.
So how do you count? How do you count it?
There's some scoring different elements you can do, but this one especially,
it was tricky.
Yeah. I mean, it didn't go without a Mel Kiper meltdown.
Oh my goodness!
The network.
All the criticism of him now.
Prank calls. Mel Kiper.
My goodness!
You had quarterbacks being taken that no one thought would be taken.
Quarterback not taken that people thought should have been taken.
Yes.
And now all kinds of things about that coming out.
Oh, my God. I mean, just pure chaos. More than I remembered in the past.
Yeah.
People complaining about the bikes. The venue looking a little bit more like a music festival. It was a hell of a draft night.
It really was. And, for the most part, the players you thought would go in the first round did go in the first round.
Whether that was towards the beginning or towards the end, they initially went.
Yeah. There was some jumbling around of those, but for the most part, they were in there somewhere.
Yes.
I think one of the biggest picks that fell that just shocked me was Jihad Campbell.
Yeah.
Who I thought was one of the better linebackers, probably the second-rated linebacker, falling to the Eagles. And it's just like, OMG, here we go again.
You can't make this shit up.
No. So I thought, the Chargers getting Amari and Hampton was a great pick.
That was a great pick. Bit surprised. I was begging for the trenches, but you understand when you look at the Chargers what their biggest flaws were last year, and it was they made anything work on defense, but for the love of God, offensively production was plummeting.
Yep. I think one of the big ones we had to talk about, we did mention this on the show.
Right.
But the Jags moving to 2 with the Browns.
Yes.
To get Travis Hunter. So the smoke was actually fire on that one.
Yep.
And so that was pretty exciting. Jags fans are kind of mixed on that one.
Yeah, they were kind of going into the draft at the end of that. End of the night before the draft started. It was sounding a lot like Ash and Genty.
Yeah.
And, that started picking up steam quickly.
Yeah.
And then second pick rolls around, takes a little longer. The trade. I can't remember off the top of my head what they gave up for that draft pick. I wanted to say it was like a second and a fourth in that draft, and maybe the first round, the 2026 draft.
That's right.
Because I believe that's what the Browns got. And to be honest, if I'm a Browns fan, I still don't think it's the worst decision they've made.
No,
in a top 5 pick situation.
Honest to goodness, I think it's good for both.
Yeah.
And I think what's wild about it is we talked about the movie Draft Day.
Mm-hmm.
In the movie Draft Day, the Jaguars and Browns trade picks. So it's funny that
it kind of happened.
Yeah, theater became reality there.
It was crazy,
but I think it's good for both.
Yeah, I completely agree.
So it's kind of interesting. Genty ends up going to the Raiders at 6, and Genty was first mocked to go to the Raiders at 6, and kind of the smoke screen was thrown out there that the Raiders aren't really interested. And it goes to show that even like the Pete Schraegers and the Daniel Jeremiahs get the smoke screens like all the rest of us do.
Of course.
And Genty went right where he was originally projected to go, to the Raiders. So kind of funny.
A wild situation.
Yep. Colston Loveland, the tight end from Michigan, going higher than Tyler Warren was a bit of a surprise.
Yeah.
Most people had that flipped. Trying to think what else was kind of... Mason Graham went above... Kenneth Grant, both defensive tackles from Michigan. That was expected.
Yep.
But yeah, Jackson Dart. So the Giants coming back up
in
the first round with the Texans to get Jackson Dart. That hit something, right?
Yeah, hit that over 2.5 quarterbacks beautifully.
So,
or no, it didn't.
It didn't. Yeah.
Oh, fuck, Jesus. Yeah. Shot. Yeah.
Yeah, because we were one short there.
But someone came back in the draft towards the end and got him. Which, let's see if Dable finally gets the quarterback he wants. I mean, the next 2 years are essentially for his job, like any coach of the NFL. But he seemed to like him a lot, and they took him second. So, only goes to show, we'll see if he's really a quarterback developing coach or not.
Yep. And, of course, the Cowboys end up taking the one player I can't pronounce his name when we did the show, Donovan E.
Yes.
Azuruko.
You better...
Something like that.
Got a whole season.
Got a whole season. I had it the other day, and now I can't remember it. But
Zuraku?
Zuraku. Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's it.
I think he has a cooler name if you just call him Easy.
Yeah. In fact, the local media for the Cowboys are just saying Electric E.
Oh.
So he's already got a nickname that takes it out of the equation.
The harder the name, the quicker the nickname. I think there's some logic there.
Something to be said there.
Yes.
So we're just going to kind of run down through some other thoughts about the draft. That sound good?
Yeah, some kind of the teams that clearly just got better.
Yeah, I mean, clearly the New England Patriots had a great draft.
Oh, my God.
They stuck to their board. Will Campbell, they just flat out loved him. We talked about maybe they were in a bit of a pickle there.
I thought smoke screens for sure.
Yep. But the way that Vrabel went on and on about him in the presser afterwards was just like, this guy's great. We fell in love with him. And I don't know if you saw the guy when he got on. He was the dude with the pinstripe suit, the big dude.
Yes.
He almost looked like he wasn't real.
Well, he looked like
massive,
a 1920s mobster.
Yeah.
And a good Southern boy that was like, I will die for my quarterback.
Yeah.
Which is horrifying because now it's Drake May, that guy on the offensive line. Out of the gate, that's beautiful.
Yeah. So I don't know if you saw his interview, but when he first talked after getting drafted, he couldn't speak. He was so overcome with emotion. Wow. It was really cool.
Yeah.
So big guy with a big heart, right?
Yeah.
That sounds like a Patriots kind of guy.
Yeah, great place to start in New England with this whole, maybe not rebuild, but they're going through a spot where they're not Tom Brady and Julian Edelman anymore.
Yeah. I also saw something interesting on the reason why. So we were speculating, why did they trade Joe Milton?
Oh, yeah.
So I saw a little clip about that. And Joe Milton apparently is really pressing to be a number one somewhere.
Oh, so it was more on him.
So they didn't want Drake May to have this guy,
bumping heads all the time.
Yep. You go to Dallas.
Right.
clearly Dak Prescott's the starter, so it's not going to happen.
No.
But for a young guy like Drake May, you can see where that push might be
a little bit much. It might feel like pressure internally.
But they didn't want to do that. So they got Josh Dobbs.
Yeah.
He's not going to be a starter, so they're all good. But that was interesting to see that.
Yeah, that is.
I was kind of curious why they let him go.
That makes sense, though. If he wants to go on to be a starter and he's, Patriots are comfortable with who they've got, trade him. Get rid of him, however you want to say it.
Yep. So the Patriots get an A overall. This is USA Today rankings, but I kind of agree with that.
Yeah, and all these post-draft rankings, they don't matter too much, but you can definitely tell which teams got what they should get.
Yeah.
Or what teams it felt like that made sense. It's not like, there's been a couple throughout the years where someone just drafts the flashiest player at that time, and it's like, you already have 3 of those. I don't know why you do that, but...
Well, feel free to go back and see our previous 2013, where we went back and looked at how that crappy some of that shit turned out. You just never know.
You never know. It's so funny.
It is worth noting, second-round running back Trevon Henderson from Ohio State was picked by the Patriots. That's a hell of a pick.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be great in the NFL.
God, it makes me mad.
Giants, of course. So the worst team in the NFC East got the most better.
Yes.
Abdul Carter, no doubt about it. Could be another Micah Parsons, is what they're saying here.
Yeah, I'm still convinced Abdul Carter and Thibodeau on the same side. That feels dangerous. And
it's a problem.
They got maybe obviously Jackson Dart, who is supposed to now be maybe not starting, obviously, with him being a rookie. And they have Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston they just paid. But a couple years, who knows, because you think back to Josh Allen and how he started out with Brian Dable. Yeah, it was
that's
Dable.
Right. Yep.
And it was a rough one, like any rookie quarterback, rough start. And now, you talk about Josh Allen with the best top 3 in the AFC.
Yeah.
With, undoubtedly, minus the lack of Super Bowls. But that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah, and I think it's a great move here because you've been in quarterback hell for a year or two. So go out, pick up veterans, and then draft somebody high.
Yes.
Get it fixed one way or the other, but make it not your problem anymore. So
moving in the right direction for sure.
The other pick I really like here they got in the 4th round is Cam Scatabo.
Oh, yeah.
Running back.
The Minnesota running back?
Might be Arizona or I'm not,
ASU?
Maybe so. Arizona State.
Yeah, that might be it.
But that dude is a bulldozing, how it says it here. He's 5'11 and 225 if I remember.
That is a meatball. But he has a couple famous videos on the internet of him running downfield, and that kid plays with heart from what I can tell.
Yeah.
I am not a college person, so I won't know his name until he makes his first touchdown.
Yep.
But great draft for the Giants.
Definitely so. So that was an A- for them. Raiders get an A-, so you're dealing with one too.
Fucking
Genty, again, it ends up going there. Great pick.
Pete Carroll, once again,
Yep.
gets the running back that, it would be poetry if Genty picked up the Skittles commercial the same way Patrick Mahomes picked up the Head and Shoulders from Troy Polamalu.
Yeah.
Regardless, Pete Carroll once again gets his running back.
Yeah, definitely so. They also picked, another one, Darian Porter, a corner in the 3rd.
Okay.
That was somebody who I had high. I think that's Iowa State.
Okay.
Good corner for the 3rd round.
Especially if he's coming from Iowa State. That's a defensive school.
Yeah, so seemingly a nice debut by rookie GM John Spytek and, Tom Brady and all the rest. Pete Carroll.
I liked it better when the Raiders had the old Chargers GM, not McCoy, Telesco.
Oh, yeah. Jets get an A-, so their offseason of a turnaround, starting with Rodgers' departure.
Right.
Gets better.
That's right.
So Aaron Glenn gets Membao.
Right.
And a great offensive lineman. Going to be good for them.
Got to protect.
Mason Taylor, tight end. That was another really good pick. I didn't realize he's the son of former Jets linebacker Jason Taylor.
Okay,
which
so
is
that
interesting.
might have been the owner saying, we're taking him, which across all accounts would just feed into this owner being just way too involved.
Yeah, and you remember, isn't it the owner's kid that
was in the locker room with Aaron Rodgers? So, one great pick for Aaron Glenn sounds like might have been handicapped by the owner on the second one with a past amazing Jets player. But who knows? They did need a tight end. They lost Tyler Conklin to the Chargers in free agency. So
yeah, so A- for the Jets. That's good. Steelers get a B+.
Interesting.
Interesting. They skipped over Shadur Sanders, but we see that there may be more to that.
There might have been more.
That meets the eye. It seemed weird.
It sounded like Shador might have only met with 5 teams or something, like the top 5 teams or something along those lines.
Yep.
Didn't call any of the rest of them. Didn't do the draft or combine. And then at some point, owners started getting sick and tired and feeling like he was entitled and not worth it at that pick. And then the prank calls. What a crazy situation around that whole thing. They have the legendary room in their house. I mean,
yeah,
they might as well have used that for Shiloh Sanders. That was crazy.
Weird,
now,
right?
Terrible that someone decided to prank call. Well, the Falcons defensive coordinator's son decided to prank call him and then also be in the video.
Right.
Or what are you, an idiot? They're gonna. I'm not gonna.
Yeah, it's kind of bizarre, right?
Yeah, a shit thing to do and an even dumber thing to be in the video that the other kid's taking of them prank calling the Sanders.
Yeah,
I can't believe it, but that $100,000 is probably gonna hurt the kid just as much as the dad.
Yeah.
So
they end up going with Derek Harmon, the defensive tackle, which is a great pick. And I need to correct something that I said before. So when I was talking about the Saints drafting defensive end, I mentioned replacing a Cam, and I couldn't think of it. I said Cam Hayward.
Oh,
it's Cam Jordan for the Saints. It's Cam Hayward for the Steelers.
Yep.
So, and this could be the next Cam Hayward, is what they say here.
Oh, interesting.
Derek Harmon. But what's interesting is they also got outside linebacker Jack Sawyer from Ohio State, who I believe is a captain for Ohio State. So that's a great pickup to put with T.J. Watt and Alex Highsmith.
I think he is the one that had that fumble recovery in the Texas game last year
so.
And ran it back.
Yep.
So great. Steelers got better on the line.
Yeah, and not necessarily the best overall athlete or whatever, but he just makes plays.
Right. He's the difference maker.
They also got Caleb Johnson, running back out of Iowa, which is a great pick to replace Najee Harris.
God.
And then they still got Will Howard, in the 6th round. So I think the Steelers are underrated at B+, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, they fixed that defensive line that was plagued by injuries.
Yep.
From the sounds of it.
Yep. Cowboys get a B+. Like we said, Tyler Booker, the guards who they took to replace Zach Martin.
Right.
A little bit of a reach there, but it definitely will shore up the line.
And center, after being a Chargers fan for so long, is something you just need. You just need a good center in that position, or else nothing else matters.
Yeah. And really cool, too. A friend of mine, Jen's daughter, Ella, who goes to Alabama, where Tyler Booker played, had a picture with him because they're both athletes. She's on the rowing team.
Right.
So it was kind of neat to see kind of a personal connection to a player that came to the Cowboys. So.
Friend of a friend. It was pretty crazy because immediately turned around and went, that's him right there, right? And it was like, what the fuck?
Yeah. How did that happen?
Yeah. What a crazy connection.
And like we say, 2nd round defensive end, Electric E from Boston College. Everybody seems to think he should have gone in the 1st round.
Right.
Also, Shavon Revel, cornerback. A lot of people thought he should have gone higher. I feel like the Cowboys did a few good things. They didn't get a receiver 2 to go with CeeDee Lamb is the only criticism here.
Well, have you seen all the rumors that they might be reaching for Amari Cooper again?
Yeah.
Which, after how it ended the last time, I'm
a little cringed about that one, but hey.
Yeah,
I mean, he could be a wide receiver 2 now.
Yeah.
So I'm not against it.
That'd just be crazy to see him come back to the Cowboys after it sounded like it ended so terribly.
Yep, but just make sure Dak signs off on that shit before you do it.
Please.
So
Jerry's like, I got you a wide receiver too. Meet your new best old friend, Amari.
Greet him the same way he went out.
Yep.
Fuck you.
Oh God, that would be bad.
Eagles B+ at 7.
Can they just take a break?
Oh my gosh, yeah. But they get Jahad Campbell way later than they should have.
That was ridiculous. I watched him draft similarly to Harmon. Harmon, and that was just. You knew who he was going to once it passed the Rams.
Yep. And so, they did get a couple really good players again here.
Yep.
They always do. Andrew Mukuba, safety. I thought that was a great pick. Kyle McCord was another in the 6th round. Yeah. Quarterback was another great one. So they're in good shape.
It's just disappointing.
Yeah.
As per usual, the Eagles continue. I mean, that front office... You gotta hand it to them. They know how to play free agency and the draft right.
They just don't mess around,
Gotta commend them for it.
Yep. Let's see where the Where do you think the Chargers ended up here?
Probably C+, if I had to guess right.
Let's see.
Because I'm trying to remember. God, I was out watching the rest of the draft for most of it.
But the next couple days?
Yeah, and it was like, I know they got a wide receiver that was pretty good in the second round. Oh, it was a C+. How about that?
Good call. They said, and I need long to displace. Okay. Yeah, Amari and Hampton, I mean, fresh legs, a big back.
And they'd used the competitive Tinder option on J.K. Dobbins, which I don't know if that means he stays for less money. Or
I saw that too.
They only have to pay so much to keep him one more additional year.
Huh.
It was some crazy, I don't even know how to describe it. One of those franchise tag, but positional franchise tag situations where I'd never heard it being used, and it was used for J.K. Dobbins and a player on the Browns. So they might keep him. I don't think they will, but I have no idea. There's news.
Trey Harris, second round wide receiver. That was a good pick.
I was happy with that because now you got Tyler Conklin, Mike Williams, Lad McConkey, and Trey Harris, along with Quentin Johnston.
Yeah.
And whoever else they might have kept. I think Josh Palmer left. But I like it. I mean, you just got to give him something. For the love of God.
And I really do think Gadsden, was a tight end they got later in the draft.
Yes.
And that guy was a converted receiver.
Okay.
And so they're saying here,
drafted a tight end late in the draft.
Didn't get a deep threat, but again, that tight end played receiver before. He was pretty quick.
So if he's just a big enough dude to stand up front and do a little blocking on the side, you learning behind Mike Williams as a big dude, assuming it's the same sort of situation.
Yeah,
I don't hate that. And Mike Williams, I don't know how he failed so bad with the Jets and Steelers. He did catch a touchdown with the Steelers, but I'm happy if he's back.
Yeah.
I think it's going to feel... I don't think he took anything for granted with the Chargers, but I do believe he's going to be more comfortable where he knows he'll be used correctly.
Yeah.
Herbert knows how to use him. Harbaugh didn't have him his first year, but I think they would have loved a deeper threat. Obviously, Lad McConkey just ran around the field like Keenan Allen on steroids. But, having the tall dude helps too.
Yeah. This has the Cleveland Browns rated with an I for incomplete.
Did Mel Kiper make this?
I don't know what the hell was...
no. Mel Kiper would have given them
he did
A++. Because they drafted Shador.
Oh, because they did. Yeah. he might have given them two different ratings. F for the first round and an A+ for everything after that.
Yeah, maybe.
But if you look at this, Mason Graham at number 5, defensive tackle. Quinshawn Judkins, running back from Ohio State at 36. That's pretty good.
It is.
Carson, if you remember, we talked about this for the Cowboys linebacker, Carson Schwessinger.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to be an immediate starter. There's no doubt about it. And then Dylan Sampson, I think from Tennessee, is a running back. He's what do you call it? Thunder and lightning or whatever. They've got the two backs to do that now.
Right.
So, whatever you want to say about the Shador stuff, Dylan Gabriel, the quarterback they took also, 5'11" and like 200-something pounds.
Meatball.
So they've got a whole room of misfit toys is what it almost feels like. I don't know.
Kevin Stefanski's a good coach. The organization shit, but Kevin Stefanski's not bad. So I'm curious to see how they use him.
Yeah.
Especially because now you think about the AFC North, sorry. And, Steelers improved their defensive line. They got nuts. Browns just added all these weapons along with re-signed Myles Garrett. The Ravens got Malachi Starks in the draft, which fell tremendously and was a damn steal. And then you look at the Bengals, who they added some great players on defense. I think that first round they got Stewart. If I'm remembering that right, it was something...
Shamar Stewart?
Yeah. So that would be a huge help for them.
Yeah.
But it still remains to be seen if they draft anyone else.
Yeah.
So I think the Bengals will be in 50 to 45-point games. That it's half the time the Bengals score 50 and half the time their opponent scores 50.
Yeah.
That's going to be a crazy league or division to watch come November.
Yeah, again, Shamar Stewart, it says here boom or bust, so that's probably true. But we'll see what happens with that.
I know. I just, with the teams we're mainly talking about, I'm just thinking that AFC North, and it's like the Bengals offensively are unbeatable, no doubt about it. But that defense, Lord help them. They need a miracle But they did draft in the first round for it. I know there were some mixed feelings about that player in particular, but
yeah.
I'm excited. I'm excited for AFC North football.
Oh, yeah. Bears, who had 4 picks in the top 79, score a B- here. Colston Loveland, again, tight end. Whether he was the right choice over Tyler Warren, arguable.
Yeah.
I heard people debate that, so it's not crazy.
No.
And then also they got Luther Burden, wide receiver, Luther Burden the third. And again, loosely compares to Deebo Samuel. So
not a bad play.
Yeah, so not bad at all. And then in the second round, they took Shamar Turner, defensive tackle. So
beef up the defense a bit more and try and help Caleb Williams out. Because this offseason, they've been pretty busy with getting offensive tackles or offensive linemen.
Right, offensive linemen,
Try and help out, obviously, Caleb Williams.
Yeah. So they've, it's pretty interesting how it's all shaking out here. And
and
I don't know.
It's a whole lot of what do you do now, bucket?
Yeah, only time will tell, right?
Exactly. And week 1's not quickly approaching, but the release date of week 1 is quickly approaching.
That's the exciting part. May 14th.
May 14th.
Prime time.
Yeah, they made a whole announcement thing about it during the draft, which was kind of wild. If you ask me, I did not expect that to be something they did, where all of a sudden these 2 young ladies walk out, and you're like, okay, who's picking now? And they're going, announcement coming May 14th, 2025.
To a theater near you.
Yeah. They're making another big deal about it.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It feels a little over the top.
Yeah. I don't know. What else we got?
I don't know. What do you think?
Where are we sitting on time?
About 25, 26.
That's probably about right.
Did you see any of that Mel Kiper stuff?
I didn't firsthand, but I heard about it. So tell me more.
I watched the video, and I can't remember who's with him on the broadcast, but Mel Kiper is freaking out that for 50 years, and I think I quote 50 years, the NFL has sucked at grading quarterbacks and evaluating quarterbacks, and he is going into this 3-minute rant about how is Shador still there, and who knows? Maybe Shador will be the reincarnate Tom Brady, and maybe he will look like one of those quarterbacks the Cardinals took before Kyler Murray that didn't amount to anything.
Yeah.
And he's freaking out, and his co-host is going, well, we don't know what's going through their minds. There's a bunch of angles with Shador Sanders that comes with them, and Mel Kiper is going scorched earth. And then it came out from someone else on the Pat McAfee show that Mel Kiper may not just be on the internet at all, because after the whole fact, he was just walking around the lobby and hanging out like any other night. So I think he might be totally unaware of it.
Wow.
To some extent. Obviously, I'm sure someone had to have talked to him about it from higher ups, but
no, I
don't hate him. I don't hate him by any means. I think it was kind of a fair crash out.
Stand up for what you want, right?
But and his mock drafts, I think, historically are pretty good.
Not bad.
I mean, he's the the standard, but he's the typical guy doing the mock drafts for the network.
Right. And for whatever reason, McShay is off of ESPN. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah.
Why he's doing his own stuff on the side.
Right.
I always liked him with Kiper to kind of have
that balance.
Kiper can and always has, tended to be a little preachy on stuff.
Oh, well, I mean, you look at his hair. He's
fabulous, isn't it? Isn't it just fabulous?
That is the definition of doing more with less but more.
Yes.
He has lost it all but refused to believe that he's lost it all. And it's just funny. I don't blame him either, because frankly, if I had someone ranked 20 and I was religious about my mock drafts every year, I would be a little pissed off too that, he fell to day 3 and I had him going first day.
Yeah.
I don't blame him. I thought it was kind of crazy. A lot of people were calling for his jobs personally. I don't know if he needs to lose his job. If anything,
a little over the top, right?
A little over the top. Make the draft exciting.
Right.
I don't hate it.
I mean, the NFL does want theater after all, right?
And as long as he's not saying anything crazy, I mean, you have Booger still at that table after the shit he did.
Yeah.
You can't watch that video, watch Mel Kiper get bent out of shape about his mock draft being wrong, like anybody does every day.
Yeah.
And then look at Booger and be like, well, it should be Mel that's kicked off the stream.
Yeah.
That was just my opinion on the whole thing.
Dude, we were sitting there watching it, and I was getting bent out of shape about mine. If
exactly.
If I had been live on a show, I'd have been like, oh, here we go. Here we go.
And you wonder why we can't do watch-alongs.
That's right.
But Who knows?
What are you going to do?
It's
right?
going to blow over. No one will remember it by mid-June.
No.
It'll be, Aaron Rodgers still hasn't signed with the team or something along those lines, and
Yep.
life will go on. But I did want to touch that because it was a hilarious bit of him just losing his damn mind.
It really was, and I know local Mike Fisher, Dallas's local cover guy, who is really good and really tied in at the Star every day. But he said, this whole ESPN and Mel Kiper, the 50-year thing is just ridiculous. He's like, of course the NFL has drafted great quarterbacks in 1, 2, and whatever the picks are many, many times over 50 years. So what the hell are you even talking about?
Exactly.
And it is you can feel one way about Shedeur Sanders and all that and argue that. A whole other one to say the NFL doesn't know how to grade quarterbacks and then have just, however many it's been.
Right.
Dozens and dozens that have drafted over that 50 years,
I completely agree.
It's a stupid statement.
I think it might be social media getting to him, even though he's not on it, but it's one of those things where maybe in recent years you've seen a few more first-round flops than the past.
Yeah.
But it's been consistent throughout what feels like the entire time the NFL's been around.
Right. So
what are you going to do?
Yeah. Kind of like a local weatherman losing it when, got a tornado coming through.
The Bachelor.
Yeah.
People are tweeting at him.
Losing your mind saying, I really don't care about The Bachelor. We're trying to save lives here, people. Yeah. Damn it.
That's still an iconic
That's epic.
Yeah. Never forget that. Nevertheless.
Speaking of losing it, so this is our 77th
episode.
Therapy session,
if you will.
Yes.
Because
Colin and I always talk about how we can come into this feeling like, whatever.
Whatever happened during the workday.
Yep. And we sit down here and talk about football with you all, which we love doing every week.
It's a blast.
And we instantaneously feel better.
Yeah.
And by the time we're done with this, we're like, I feel so much better after talking football.
Yes.
And it's so true, right?
After a day of talking manufacturing, talking NFL it's a sweet treat.
Yes. And to kind of conclude from my perspective anyway, episode 77, we've talked about a favorite player or somebody you can name that has that. Well, one of mine was in the mid-'80s for the Cowboys.
Okay.
And number 77 was the incredible Jim Jeffcoat.
Okay.
And Jim Jeffcoat, defensive end for the Cowboys, he was there when Too Tall Jones was still there. And he had 2 different times against the Giants that I remember. And I did actually meet him one time in Cincinnati. But big man. 2 different times where Too Tall Jones against the Giants tipped the ball in the air, and Jim Jeffcoat caught it in the air and ran it back for a touchdown.
Damn.
Imagine a 6'3", 6'4", 250 guy, a defensive lineman. One time I think it was 70 yards. The other time it was like 30 yards.
Good God.
But it happened twice in his career, and I'll never forget those plays. And he was one of the few people that kind of, when Tom Landry was fired,
right,
and Jimmy Johnson took over, he was one of the few players that made it to the Jimmy Johnson team.
Gotcha.
So spoke a lot about just what kind of player he was.
Everything around him.
Even then. So anyway, for me, 77 will always be Jim Jeffcoat.
Hell yeah. And as per usual, I have got no players off the top of my head named 77. Maybe I'll come next week more prepared.
There you go.
I'll bring it up. But
no worries.
As always, everyone have a great week. We will see you next week on the Coy Pond. And we will figure out before then what we are talking about, because 2 weeks after the draft is the start kind of what do you want to talk about?
Maybe what we'll do is pick week 1, and we'll do a mock of what we think the schedule will be.
There we go.
A mock schedule.
Episode. Okay.
For week 1.
Why not?
How about that?
We will leak the schedule early.
We'll leak it.
Yes, we'll get them all right.
Yep.
Nevertheless, everyone have a great week. Stay safe, and we will see you next week on the Coy Pond.